Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Charlie State and Naga Monchetti.
Our headlines today. Concern from the UK government as a new variant of coronavirus is discovered in South Africa.
It may be more transmissible than the Delta variant, and the vaccines that we currently have may be less effective against it.
Flights from 6 African countries are suspended with immediate effect. Travellers from the region face 10 days of strict quarantine.
Emergency meetings on the Channel migrant crisis. The Prime Minister calls on France to take back people who cross to the UK.
Good morning. Will Black Friday deliver a big retail boost? We're expecting to spend £9 billion this weekend, so I'm finding out how firms are coping along with their robots.
A new law to ensure better support for people with Down syndrome. We hear the hopes of some of those who could benefit.
Good morning. An embarrassing night for Spurs. They're left shocked in Slovenia, beaten by the lowest ranked team in this season's European competitions and leaving their hopes of reaching the knockout phase hanging by a thread now.
And I'll have the latest on Storm Arwen, set to come later today and overnight. And it's parts of eastern Scotland, northeast England, most susceptible to damaging gusts of wind. All the details coming up here on Breakfast.
Good morning. It's Friday, the 26th of November. Our main story this morning, several southern African countries have been placed on the travel red list amid warnings of a new coronavirus variant of serious concern.
Scientists fear it could be more transmissible and better able to evade vaccines, although only a small number of cases have so far been confirmed in Africa, none in the UK. Here's more from our medical editor, Fergus Walsh.
The speed at which new and stringent travel restrictions have been imposed show just how seriously this variant is being taken. Between 500 and 700 travellers arrive in the UK from South Africa every day. That's where most of the cases have so far been identified and where it appears the variant may be driving a new wave of infection.
It may be more transmissible than the Delta variant, and the vaccines that we currently have may be less effective against it. Now, to be clear, we have not detected any of this new variant in the UK at this point in time, but we've always been clear that we will take action to protect the progress that we have made.
The new variant was formally identified only 3 days ago. Genetic analysis shows it has twice the number of mutations as Delta, the dominant variant worldwide, including around 30 changes to the spike protein, which the virus uses to break into human cells. This makes it dramatically different from the original Wuhan strain, on which all current vaccines are based. But crucially, there is no evidence yet that the variant causes more severe disease or that it makes vaccines less effective. It will take 2 to 3 weeks before laboratory tests can show whether this is another defining moment in the pandemic or a false alarm. Fergus Walsh, BBC News.
Let's talk to our correspondent John Donnison, who's at Heathrow Airport this morning. John, morning to you. So, there have been some immediate moves, haven't there, for those who are coming back to the UK from those countries in southern Africa?
The red list is back in the next 20 minutes or so. The last 2 BA and Virgin flights from Johannesburg in South Africa are due to touch down here at Heathrow, and that's because from 12 o'clock today, direct flights from 6 countries, that's South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Eswatini and Namibia, will be suspended until 4 o'clock on Sunday. Now that's to allow time to get the hotel quarantine system back in place, and from 4 a.m. on Sunday, anyone who's been in those 6 countries in the last 10 days flying back into England will have to go into hotel quarantine for 10 days and take a PCR test on day 2 and day 8. And people who are not UK or Ireland residents will not be able to come to the UK at all. Now, a big blow for the airlines again. BA and Virgin both saying to check with their website before you go to the airport, and they will be updating their schedules over the next week or so. But of course, coming up to Christmas, South Africa in particular, quite a popular destination, lots of people coming and going. They're going to have to change their plans.
John, thanks very much. John Donaldson there. We'll obviously keep you updated. And we're going to be talking to the Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, at 7:30 this morning and find out more about the moves and what the government is planning to do when it comes to travel.
The Prime Minister has called on France to take back all people who reach the UK by crossing the English Channel in small boats.
It's one of a series of proposals he set out in a letter to President Macron last night to avoid a repeat of Wednesday's tragedy where 27 people died. Here's more from our political correspondent, Nick Eardley.
This is France's north coast, the place from where thousands have set off for the UK's shores in recent months. This week, that had tragic consequences. The death of at least 27 people in the Channel on Wednesday hasn't stopped more making the dangerous journey, though. There were boats arriving in Kent again yesterday. But in London and Paris, politicians have pledged to step up their efforts to try and stop the crossings in future. Last night, the Prime Minister wrote to France's President with proposals. Boris Johnson wants a returns agreement, which would allow illegal migrants to be sent back to France quickly. The government believes that would put many off making the journey in the first place and help break the model of smuggling gangs. Mr Johnson also formally called for joint patrols featuring French and British personnel to man this vast coast. The Prime Minister said that could happen from as early as next week, but France is reluctant to agree, believing such a move would undermine its sovereignty.
In a way, we are guarding this border for the British. These men and women don't want to claim asylum in France. We have offered that, and if they do, we have centres for them near Calais and Dunkirk.
Both sides have said they want to do more to find solutions after this week's events. But finding answers they agree on has been difficult in the past and won't be straightforward now. Nick Eardley, BBC News, Westminster.
We'll be speaking to our reporter Simon Jones, who's in Dover, in just a moment. First, let's get the latest from Calais with our foreign correspondent Jessica Parker. Jessica, very good morning to you. This is a moment where politics is playing large in this process, and we know the problems continue. Where are we with that dialogue?
Yeah, good morning from a very blustery Calais. Well, British officials are going to meet with French officials today in France to try and get those face-to-face conversations going. And then the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, is also coming here to meet her French counterpart on Sunday. So dialogue is happening. The big question, of course, is what can they actually agree? As Nick was just outlining, the Prime Minister overnight has made some suggestions reiterating the idea of joint patrols along the northern French coast, something I think the French are going to find very hard to swallow, and to try and agree some kind of returns arrangement that fell away after the United Kingdom left the European Union. So those are the suggestions from the British Prime Minister. We'll have to see what kind of dialogue and what kind of dialogue can lead to any results. Meanwhile, worth mentioning as well here in France, we're expecting a number of protests on a different issue today, post-Brexit fishing rights. We're expecting a number of fishermen to try and disrupt a number of ports. It's not clear how significant those protests will be, but it is all part of a relationship that has been strained between Britain and France in recent months. But I think in terms of trying to find some sort of solution for this problem of people making this incredibly perilous crossing across the Channel, politicians will be under real pressure and feel real pressure to try and find some kind of solutions.
Jessica, thank you for that. Let's go to our reporter Simon Jones, who's in Dover for us this morning. Simon, I just wonder if you could pick up on many of the stories that are emerging in some of the papers this morning, some very harrowing stories related to the incident itself, the drownings and those who are thought to have been caught up in it. What is the latest?
Yes, the police are still trying to establish the identities of the 27 people who died, but some of the human tragedies are emerging. Now, the Telegraph has spoken to an Iraqi man, an Iraqi Kurd, who is based here in the UK. Now, he believes his wife may well have drowned on board that boat. He said he was tracking her progress using GPS, but then after about 4 hours, the signal simply disappeared. He said he phoned the smugglers who had organised the crossing, and the smugglers said they were unable to make any contact with the people on board the boat. So he is fearing the worst, but left in a state of limbo. I think in terms of what's happening here, Boris Johnson writing that letter to Emmanuel Macron, he's really saying we need to do something radical here, otherwise there are going to be more catastrophes out there in the Channel. And people are rightly, he says, questioning politicians. Have we done enough to try to stop people losing their lives? And the risks are continuing. Yesterday morning, a couple of boats arrived carrying 62 people. We know on Wednesday, the day when 27 people lost their lives, 757 people did manage to make it across the Channel to the UK. It's windy here in Dover today, as it is over in Calais, but I think the authorities are braced for more potential crossings, potentially when the weather gets a little bit better. But the reality is these crossings will continue unless there are some radical solutions.
Simon, thank you.
A candlelit vigil has been held close to where an 18-year-old woman from Plymouth was last seen alive. Officers searching for Bobby Ann McLeod found a woman's body on Tuesday, which hasn't yet been formally identified. Police are continuing to investigate her suspected murder, and a 24-year-old man with no known link to Bobby Ann remains in custody.
The Royal College of Emergency Medicine has warned of a crisis in patient care and safety this winter as A&E departments struggle to cope. A survey by the college found ambulances were being forced to queue daily outside the majority of hospitals before they could unload patients. Under NHS guidance, handovers should be completed within 15 minutes. The government says extra funding is being provided to boost staff numbers in key areas.
Days ago, unidentified, and where it appears the variant may be
and better able to evade vaccines, although only a small number. Countries are suspended with immediate effect. Travellers from the region face 10 days of strict quarantine.
Pandemic or a false alarm. Another defining additional Wuhan strain uses to break in
flights from.
We are guarding most of the cases, or that it Fergus will speak.
Let's talk to our
Here's the is to break into